Everybody, welcome to Kitabeclub. We are here with yet another brilliant conversation with the author of Change Your Habits and Change Your Life, Ashdeen Doctor. Before we go any further, I invite my author. I would like to tell you to observe something. When you are wearing your shoelaces and there are two shoes around you, which one will you wear? The one which has slip-on or the other one which has laces? So before you think any further, I know the obvious choice is definitely the slip-on. But isn't it reflecting a habit, a change we are having, but the psychology behind which we are ignoring? So with similar interesting conversation, let me add my guest for the day. And by the time my guest joins in, let me introduce my author. Ashdeen Doctor is a Mumbai-based popular habit coach, popularly known as the Habit Coach. Okay. Of many who feel stuck by creating habits that can be easily incorporated into daily life. Okay, I do see some issue. Okay. Hi,
Hi there.
Ashley, how are you?
Very
Hi, how are you?
good. How are you?
I am good too. I'm fantastic. This I will do it. Once I was in mid of your introduction, but let me stop that for a second. By the time my viewers are joining in, I would like to tell you something. I would like to thank you something profusely for something that I have two shoes. One is a pair of Skechers, which is a slip-on, which is my like ultimate favorite, and the other one which I used to use for marathons and when I used to go for walks. And वो जो नाइकी के शूज थे ना वो कहीं किसी कॉर्नर में चले गए थे. आपके बुक में पेज नंबर 4 पे आप एक कॉन्वर्सेशन बताते हैं. उसके बाद से मैंने आप विश्वास नहीं करेंगे ऑलमोस्ट अ मंथ बैक आई बॉट दिस बुक और उसके बाद से मैंने वो स्लिप-ऑन्स को हाथ नहीं लगाया है. दे आर इन द बैक बर्नर. आई एम वेयरिंग माय shoelaces and the shoes.
Amazing.
I never noticed this and I would like to say you thank you.
My,
Thank you so much for that.
it's such a small thing, no? Just tying your shoelaces.
Yeah, but then I understood that, though they were discomfortable for longer walks, but then I was getting very, stuck on those. कि अच्छे वाले shoes मुझे slip-on में ही चाहिए. But when I was going through your book, a lot of pages I have gone to and fro, and there have been several observations, I have made about myself over the period, how I've changed and things like that. Thank you so much for bringing it to my notice.
My
And let us start this the traditional way. Let me introduce my author. Yes, so Ashdeen Doctor is a Mumbai-based popular habit coach who has been transforming the lives of many who feel stuck by creating habits that can be easily incorporated. I'm telling you, they're as simple as the shoe example I gave, easily incorporated into daily life. He is the founder of Awesome 180, a habit coaching program. He also hosts a popular podcast, The Habit Coach. Welcome to Kitabeclub, Ashdeen.
Thank you. Very excited to be here. I love talking about books.
Yeah. I noticed something about you. The first thing, why Awesome 180? Why not Awesome 100 or Awesome 360 or 200, 250? Why specifically 180?
So the funny thing about saying that, I changed my life around 360 degrees is that means you went around and came back to the same spot. Right?
Okay.
It's really funny the way when we say 360 degrees means you came back to the same place.
True.
So 180 means you've gone in a different direction.
Okay.
Also, it was a 6-month program. So in 6 months, there are 180 days. So 30 days a month, 6 months, 180 days. So as a result, 30 days for each of the fundamental habits totaled up to 180 days. So that's why, how do you become awesome in 180 days is the way about it.
I remember somewhere, I do, connect with what you're saying, but I remember seeing somewhere that अगर कोई आपको हैबिट बनानी है ना तो 21 डेज लगते हैं. मतलब ठीक है अगर आप मतलब मैं समझ रही हूँ आपका 6 मंथ्स का प्रोग्राम है पर 21 डेज में कोई मिराकल जैसा नहीं होता है.
21 days में मिराकल नहीं होता है, 21 days में हैबिट भी नहीं होती है. So it's really funny when we think about habits, the 21-day rule came from somewhere else altogether. In the book, I've talked about it, how in psychocybernetics, in the book, where this person was talking about how when you had a leg amputated, you got used to that amputation in 21 days. But he didn't ever say that it becomes a habit in 21 days. And then that was translated into habit formation. But I have never seen anybody get a habit in 21 days 21 days ka challenge sounds very nice. So probably that's why 21 days stuck on. But 21 days is a complete myth. It never happens in 21 days. Instead, what I tell people to think about is, when you are creating a habit, think about the habit is going to be for the rest of your life. So now if the habit is for the rest of your life, why you so hell-bent on it being 21 days, 30 days? As humans, we get very excited by this short-term goal. We have to start thinking long-term for these changes.
Very true. When you are saying this, uh, it just simply is like, as if I know we are talking about your book, which is awesome in every sense, but at the same time, it just feels like you are, you're saying it to me in person because I have been guilty of what you have said. But at the same time, Ashton, 21 days, 30 days, or doing it for lifetime. Doing it for a lifetime is the next question I'll have. But then this question, do habits really change your life, or is it just a modern day mumbo jumbo? What do you think?
So the way to think about your life is that your entire life consists of all the years that you spent, correct, living it.
Okay. Hmm.
All those years are broken up into months. Those months are then broken up into weeks, those weeks into days, those days into minutes and hours. And what you're doing in each of those minutes and hours are nothing but what your life is going to be full of. And those minutes and hours are spent with your habits. Because the things that you do consistently are the way that your life is going to change, or life is going to
True.
be rather. So now if you think about the smallest part and then you grow it. So whatever you're doing right now, like this,
Hmm.
correct?
Hmm.
If you can make this a habit, if you can make intelligent discussions a habit like this, then
Hmm.
imagine the kind of life that you will have going ahead. So the way to think about it is that your habits are the smallest unit of the
Okay.
rest of your life.
Okay.
That,
Uh, you
which is
know.
why I always say
Hmm.
that awesome habits and awesome lives, they start with awesome habits. Because if you want an awesome life, you have to get down to that nitty gritty part of a habit.
Okay. My next question is going to again, this is a very popular question rather we have got when we announced your live that, forming a habit is more like, building up a discipline or, being part of a discipline. And in the modern day when everybody wants to be cool, हम सबको ना मतलब स्पॉन्टेनियस इम्प्रॉम्प्टू बनना है तो मुझे ऐसा लगता है और मुझे काफी सारे यंग मतलब रीडर्स ने पूछा कि जेनजी को ये जो चीज है ना बोरिंग सी साउंड करती है मतलब डिसिप्लिन बिल्डअप करना एक चीज रेगुलरली रूटीन में हर रोज करना तो ये हमारे मेंटल बैरियर से मेंटल ब्लॉक से हम ओवरकम कैसे कर सकते हैं एंड व्हाट डू यू थिंक अबाउट दिस
So the thing is that we think that anything that we do repeatedly becomes boring. Correct? That is what
यस
they say. But the thing is
यस
that what we need to understand is also that the number of things that we are subconsciously doing boring. I mean, subconsciously doing repeatedly. So,
ओके
for example, if you wake up and you have a negative thought when you wake up, you're subconsciously doing that negativity. Now, that negative thought when you wake up is a habit. So, you're already doing a habit. It is just that
ओके
you choose better versions of that habit. Now, let's take it in another way. Okay. If you're bored with the current habits that you have, what you have to do is you have to challenge yourself a little bit. So you have to stretch yourself a little. So the more you stretch yourself, it becomes interesting, right?
ओके
Even something as like reading a book, right? I'm so happy
यस
that you're doing these because every time people say that, why did you write a book, Ashton? People don't read anymore. And I was like, Arey, how can you say people don't read now? So, I'm a large part of what I'm doing is trying to get people to begin to read again as reading
ट्रू
habits. And when you think
राइट
about the book, you can start off by saying, I will read one page a day, as a small
यस
goal. And then slowly increases to I will read 2 pages a day, 3 pages a day. And then when it becomes easy, you stretch it. So for example, last year I finished 108 books, right? So it was a way of stretching myself to that way to come to that point where I could finish 108 books, not just reading audio
ओके
books, everything included. But the idea was I wanted to stretch it so that it then made sense.
challenge yourself a
So
bit, stretch it a bit,
challenge
and
yourself a
think of
bit and then it doesn't remain boring.
yeah. I have, taken note of the questions. Those are coming. I'll certainly, ask them at the end of the session. At the
Lovely.
same
Charming Desert
time,
Road has one as well.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, Ashton, when you say this, that when I look at it, stretching myself a bit, I do want to do that, but we all, in a certain way, we all lack willpower. वो एक संडे के बाद करेंगे, मंथ के फर्स्ट को करेंगे। जैसे आपकी बुक में मुझे सबसे डिफिकल्ट जो टास्क लगा था वो ये था, आप हर जगह मुझे ना मतलब एक एक्सरसाइज होती थी जिसमें लिखना होता था। मेरे दिमाग में सब कुछ है बट मुझे डर लगता था लिखने से, बिकॉज मुझे ऐसा लगता था वो लिख दिया तो वो परमानेंट है, मतलब मैं खुद के फियर्स को फेस करना चालू कर दूंगी। इट टुक मी सम टाइम, इट टुक मी सेकंड रीडिंग टू एक्चुअली स्टार्ट राइटिंग, यू नो व्हाट यू हैव आस्क्ड टू रियली राइट। तो ऐसे ही मतलब हमारी सबसे डिफिकल्ट हैबिट जो चेंज करने के लिए आपके हिसाब से, बिकॉज यू आर द हैबिट कोच और समवन 80 यू हैव यू नो कोच सो मेनी पीपल अराउंड द ग्लोब, तो सबसे डिफिकल्ट हैबिट टू चेंज और सबसे इजी हैबिट जो कि हमें एक कॉन्फिडेंस दे सकती है, दोनों कौन से होंगे आपके हिसाब से?
Most difficult habit is
हम्म,
this phone habit. Correct? Always on the phone,
ओके।
scrolling. It is one of the hardest habits to
हम्म,
change because the phone is constantly evolving faster than we are evolving as human
हम्म,
beings. And the phone is designed to be addictive. You know, it is
ट्रू।
designed, they spend millions and millions and millions of dollars just to see how they can make it more and more addictive. Now, we are just human beings. Of course, you're going to give into it. So, as a result, what happens is that we give into it and we consume that phone all the time. And our
हम्म,
attention and our energy are both going into this phone. So, this is one of the hardest ones. Even I have not been able to crack it. Even
ओके।
I, to a certain extent, still have this as a habit of
हम्म,
scrolling, messaging, talking constantly. So, it's one of the
हम्म,
difficult. I'll give you an easy one, which people think is difficult. Okay,
ओके।
binge watching Netflix, binge watching, Amazon
हम्म,
Prime, and binge watching TV series. Many people say, "Arey, once I start, I can't stop." Right?
ट्रू।
I'll tell you the easiest way, and this actually came from one of the viewers on Instagram. So she
ओके।
told me this very nice habit. She said that whenever, so if a show is 30 minutes long, somewhere in
हम्म,
the middle, around 15 minutes, 20 minutes, the show becomes slightly boring. Right? This is when
ट्रू।
you pick up your phone, you start scrolling, you look here, look there. That point, you stop the show because you
ओके।
know at the 30-minute mark is going to be very exciting, and then you want to know what is happening next. So
फॉर
you
श्योर।
stop it when it is boring so that you don't have to then fight and use, like you said, willpower to try
हम्म।
and overcome it when it becomes exciting, which is what they're trying to basically trap you with.
Oh, brilliant. I never thought of it that way, you know. Definitely, I can certainly stop at, you know, midway of the season. But at the same time, you know, I think
Not midway of the
when
season,
you were
midway of the episode.
every episode, yeah, yeah, definitely not the season. Otherwise,
Midway of the
yeah,
season,
I was going to
you're
say.
halfway through.
ट्रू, वेरी ट्रू। ऐसे जब आप मतलब हम लोग बात कर रहे थे उस समय आपने एक ये भी चीज कही थी कि जैसे हम फोन की हैबिट्स को मतलब फोन हम लोग का स्क्रोलिंग टाइम काफी हो गया है, तो उसमें हम लोग रीडिंग को भी इनकॉर्पोरेट करना चाहिए। यू आल्सो स्पीक अ लॉट अबाउट रीडिंग बुक्स एटलीस्ट वन पेज पर डे। बट एक जनरल परसेप्शन जो है मतलब लोग जो है रीडिंग से दूर भागते हैं, इसके पीछे का आपके हिसाब से क्या एक रीजन हो सकता है? मतलब
I didn't get the, क्या नहीं कर सकते हैं?
मतलब रीडिंग से दूर भागते हैं, मतलब पूरे बोला ना, अरे यार बुक बहुत अच्छा है, आई डू दिस क्वाइट ऑफन बिकॉज दिस इज व्हाट आई एंजॉय द मोस्ट, लेकिन आप रेकमेंड करेंगे ना कभी, अरे यार मेरे को पढ़ने में इंटरेस्ट नहीं है, व्हाई दिस थिंग, व्हाई, व्हाट इज दैट साइकोलॉजी बिहाइंड दिस फॉर यू?
So it's two, three things. The first thing is that books were made to be the villain in school. You were forced to read
यस।
this line, you were forced to read this in school, etc. As a result, books became the villain. You were forced to read. Now, we don't want to do things that we are forced to read. You will notice that people who enjoy reading are those whose parents gave them a book and said, if you want to read, read. If you don't want to read, don't read. They were never forced into reading. So that is the first thing. So people who enjoy reading a lot of fiction, etc., etc., etc. The other kind of people that enjoy reading are people who are very thirsty for knowledge. So I'm telling people that where in the world will you get 45 years of somebody's experience in a few weeks of reading? And that's the truth, right? In a few weeks of reading, you can get entire life's worth of experience of the author. And that is the key. So as soon as you realize these two things, saying that the books are not the villain, it was the way that you were taught to read that was the villain. And the second thing is that you're getting such a value for this, like a book costs what, 250, 300 rupees, and the amount of value
Yes,
that you
yes.
get out of that book is tremendous. The last thing that I tell people is don't read books that are not interesting to you. And I know this might sound very silly, but many people start a book, and if they don't find it interesting, continue forcing themselves to read. And then they think that they don't have the habit of reading, they don't have the ability to read. So what I say is that when you start a book, if it has not got your attention by, the first 2, 3 chapters, put it up. Start another book. There are hundreds and thousands of books around. Use another book, pick it up. And for heaven's sake, don't start with a book that is this thick as your first book. First book has to be this thin so that you get that.
Yes, very true. That's um, something that will motivate new readers per se. वो जो एक स्टेटमेंट था, दो लोग जो है हमें रीडिंग क्लब में बहुत ज्यादा मिलते हैं। एक तो पहले हम स्कूल कॉलेज में पढ़ते थे, तो उसके बाद में क्या हुआ, मैं मानती हूँ कुछ चीजों में हमारी लाइफ जो है दैट हैपेंस एंड वी गेट बिजी, बट देयर इज समथिंग लाइक वी डोंट स्टॉप डूइंग अ पर्टिकुलर थिंग। और जो आप सेकंड कह रहे हैं कि बुक्स वे मेड द विलन, दैट इज अ फैंटास्टिक ऑब्जर्वेशन। ये 100% राइट है। कहीं ना कहीं वो स्कूल का प्रेशर जो है सामने आता है। बट एट द सेम टाइम आज दिन मुझे एक चीज आपसे पूछनी है कि जब हम लोग बात कर रहे हैं, देयर आर सो मेनी क्वेश्चंस दोस आर पॉपिंग अप, आई विल सर्टेनली कम टू द क्वेश्चंस इन अ मिनट। तो मुझे एक चीज आपसे ये पूछनी है कि
Firstly,
जब हम लोग,
Charming Desert Road, where is my book in the suggestions that you
हाँ
asked
दैट
for?
वाज,
Correct. Okay. We'll answer your question later. Huh.
या
Sorry, continue.
सो या राइट हो। तो मतलब मुझे एक चीज ये पूछनी थी आपसे, आप पॉडकास्ट कर रहे हैं द हैबिट कोच, और ये पॉडकास्ट मैं और मेरा 8 ईयर ओल्ड सन, हम दोनों बहुत, मतलब हमारे कम्यूट में हम लोग सुनते हैं, एंड ही इज मोर एक्साइटेड। वो मुझसे कुछ 1 महीने पहले से पूछ रहा है, जब से मैं ये बुक पढ़ रही हूँ, कि मतलब ये कब होगा, क्योंकि वी हैव हर्ड यू मोर ऑन द पॉडकास्ट। बट पॉडकास्ट में भी आप काफी बहुत ही इंटरेस्टिंग चीज पढ़ाते हैं एंड सुनाते हैं, और हम बुक्स जब पढ़ते हैं तभी भी बहुत सारी इंटरेस्टिंग चीजें हम रीड करते हैं। दोनों के अपने अलग क्या रोल है, बिकॉज करंटली द जनरेशन इज मोर अबाउट पॉडकास्ट, बट स्टिल बीइंग अ पॉडकास्टर ऑल्सो आपने एक बुक आपकी पब्लिश की, तो दोनों में क्यों और दोनों में क्या डिफरेंस है?
Lovely. So firstly, what is your son's name?
रियांश।
So hi, Reyansh. Thank you for
Oh
listening
God,
to the
he is
podcast.
jumping.
So,
Yeah.
so the first thing is that you have to understand that a podcast and a book play two different. So अलग-अलग चीज होती है. The second one is that audiobooks and reading books also play two different roles. So you
Okay.
have to decide which kind of role is perfect for you. So like you said
Okay.
that while driving with my son, I listened to the podcast. While cooking, you might listen to the podcast. While
True.
doing something that occupies your hands but has kept you free, you're doing the podcast. So as a result, what you're doing is you're doing what is known as passive listening or passive absorption. Right? You're doing something else, you're listening. So audiobooks also fall into this category. So I only now listen to audiobooks when I drive. So as a result, you finish so many audiobooks because you're driving half an hour here, 1 hour here, etc.
True.
It becomes much easier. The books play an important role, physical books like this one play an important role when you are wanting to put your attention on something. Right? So for example, why I have exercises in the entire book is so that it puts your attention to this one part, saying that, I need to focus on this, right?
Yes.
Correct. And then you put it down. So as a result, what you're doing is you're putting your focus down when you're reading a physical book. But when you are listening to an audiobook, you're consuming content. You're searching for that next big idea that you're going to think about. So as a result, ये दोनों के roles बहुत अलग-अलग होते हैं.
ओके, दोनों की रोल्स अलग है एंड इक्वली इम्पोर्टेंट है। एंड
Equally
एज
important.
yes, as an avid reader, I would I have tried my hands a lot many times on audiobooks, but I just cannot focus on them. मैं पॉडकास्ट सुन लेती हूँ, मैं बुक्स बहुत रीड करती हूँ, फिजिकल कॉपीज किंडल पे सब जगह बहुत रीड करती हूँ, बट मैं मतलब ऑडियो बुक्स नहीं सुन पाती हूँ। समवेयर दे डू जस्ट डोंट कनेक्ट विद मी, बट आई टोटली अंडरस्टैंड विद द पॉइंट दैट कि मतलब हाँ, अगर हम अगर हम बिजी है तो पॉडकास्ट डज मेक lot of sense, और ऑडियो बुक्स ऑल्सो makes lot of sense. मेरा लास्ट क्वेश्चन, फिर हम ऑडियंस का डेफिनेटली बहुत सारे क्वेश्चन लेने वाले हैं। मेरा एक ये पूछना है आपसे आज दिन कि जब आप अगर चेंजिंग हैबिट्स के बारे में बात करें, तो ये जो कॉन्सेप्ट है, ये अच्छी हैबिट्स रखिए, बचपन से हम सुनते आ रहे हैं, और ये हंड्रेड्स एंड हंड्रेड ऑफ इयर्स से ये जो कॉन्सेप्ट है प्रेवलेंट है। बट स्टिल आज 2023 में भी हम लोग इस चीज के बारे में बात कर रहे हैं कि चेंज योर हैबिट्स एंड हैव एन ऑसम लाइफ एंड चेंज योर लाइफ। स्टिल व्हाई दिस टॉपिक इज रेलेवेंट, या फिर इस टॉपिक को हमें रिविजिट करने की जरूरत क्यों पड़ रही है?
So I don't think it's revisiting. I think it's an
Okay.
every generation ka thing.
अच्छा.
So the first mention of habits was, I think, around 400 BC. It's a long
Yes,
ago.
yes.
Right? We're talking about Roman Empire, uske pehle, and all of that. And what was important was back then also they realized the importance of these habits. When you read Stoic philosophers, I don't know if you read Stoic philosophy, but you should, because this is about philosophy, about habits, understanding the mind, the way the mind thinks. And they speak a lot about habits as well, because they realize that the things that they did regularly is what their entire mindset and their life was made up of. The thing is that we only think about habits as actions. Tying your shoelaces is an action. Brushing your teeth is an action. Correct? So all these things are action. But the thoughts that we have are also habits. Okay? Like I was giving the example of, if you have negative thoughts, that's a habit. If you're teaching yourself to have positive thoughts, that is also a habit. If you're having thoughts of growth, it's a habit. If you're having thoughts about, I don't have enough money, that's also a habit. So what is important is that nowadays, these thought wale habits are becoming more and more popular. As we speak about mental health, as we speak about all these things, these habits are becoming more popular. In fact, at the end of, I think, July, August, my third book is coming out on this mental health habits. So it's a workbook on mental health that will come out. Because the whole idea is that this is something that is so, so critical about the way that we deal with our life and the mental health that is there.
Oh, that's interesting. That's quite a revelation. I'll certainly look forward to your book. And now coming back to
the
Sorry?
Deyansh is how old?
He's 8. He'll turn 8 this May.
Oh, perfect. So the second book that is coming out in May is for children's habits. So it is all the good books for children's habits. So it's 8 habits for children between 6 to 9 year olds.
Oh, fantastic. Because I was in my mind, I was thinking, I know that this is your debut book, and how come I have not researched that well that there is already, a second book in the market.
So there are 3 coming out this year.
3 more coming out this year. Oh, brilliant.
3 total coming out. 3 total.
3 total.
3 more, I will go mad.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, the second is going to be a children's book. Third is going to be on the mental health. And at the same time, this is a fantastic question by Charming Desert Rose, that the person has asked, what about, the habit of eating junk food? Because everybody, literally everybody, like you mentioned, binge watching also, we struggle. Any tips on those?
So again, junk food is designed and engineered to be addictive, right? So all addictive food consists of something sweet, something salty, and something with fat. And you'll notice all your junk food has these 3, right? You take chips, sweet, potato, sweet, salty, and fat, right? You take any form, it is always these 3 things. It is because these are the 3 flavors that your body is constantly craving, because it is a sign of energy. So what you have to do is you have to realize this. The first way of dealing with junk food is to make sure that there is no junk food in your environment. That means no junk food in the car, no junk food at home, no junk food in your desk. And once that is done, then at least in the places that you stay primarily, there won't be junk food. Then, okay, if you go out, fine, you might eat a little bit. But this place, for sure, there is nothing. The second thing that you do is many people order in junk food using, Zomato, Swiggy, etc., etc., etc. Right? What is important to do is identify 3 to 4 restaurants, and in these restaurants, identify 3 dishes that you enjoy that are healthy according to your definition of healthy. Because my definition of healthy is very different from somebody else's definition of healthy. Correct?
Yes.
So, to understand what is your definition of healthy, and see these 4 or 5 restaurants with 3 dishes. So you have 12 dishes in all. Whenever you want to order, you go to these as your default. Don't even think about or dekhte. And then what happens is you automatically get into the habit of only ordering these 12 dishes, and 12 dishes is enough. You don't get bored
Yeah,
of 12
more than enough.
dishes,
Yeah.
correct? And that's how you basically create and break this junk food habit. So it is junk food that you're ordering home, and it is junk food that comes in the form of packaged goods as well.
Right, true, and there is this one particular question. I do recommend reading Change Your Habits, Change Your Life, because I feel this is this is what you can incorporate in the while reading, while you're looking at your life introspective, वो जो year beginning के resolutions होते हैं, आप वो कभी भी start कर सकते हैं मेरे हिसाब से. But there is a question about suggesting a book, Atomic Habits or The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. मतलब दोनों में से दोनों भी बुक्स जो है मुझे बहुत ज्यादा कनेक्ट नहीं हुई थी, पर्सनली मुझे कनेक्ट नहीं हुई थी. But what would you say on those books?
So I think The Subtle Art is a very nice book.
Okay.
It became unfortunately very trending because of the title, but
Yes,
actually it
yes.
does contain a lot of deep philosophy if you are going to and understanding it, because you're basically saying what are the things that you should be worrying about and what are the things you should not be
Hmm.
worrying about, and then knowing how
Okay.
to worry about them or not worry about them. So I think it makes a lot of sense for you
Hmm.
to read that book for sure. And if you're reading a habit book, Change Your Habits, Change
Yes.
Your Life. Dun, dun. I know
Um,
on Insta Live, all of these things come backwards. So you
yeah.
will have to use a mirror image to figure out what we were actually holding up.
Very true. And my last question for today's conversation is,
Yeah,
do you know
Kalpana
this guy?
is saying that Riyansh is watching on Nani's phone. Hi!
Yes. Yes. At the same time, do you know this guy?
I have no idea who he is.
And this was a common popular question in the book club. Uh, they sound a little funny, and there was this question that from here and to here, you have a main around, a main. How did that happen? The question was, the popular, conversation was any of the good habits, in this, part of this, or was it the good genes?
It was. So one is, how do you get the good quality of hair? There are whole different hair habits for that. But the second thing
Okay.
is that this decision to grow this happened because of a guest that I had on the podcast. So
Okay.
it was Swami that I had on the podcast, and he had one beard and long hair, and that
Hmm.
got me wondering on why all of them have long hair and things like that. And then I did my research and found out that there is a lot more to hair than we know of. So which
Okay.
is why I wanted to experiment and see, because on the podcast or wherever, I don't tell people to do anything unless I've experimented with it. So for me, this
Okay.
was my form of experiment to grow and try it out. So I'm coming up on 11 months. So it's been 11 months of this and the hair that is growing as well.
Okay.
So
Oh,
so as a result,
okay.
what's going to happen now is I'm debating on cutting my hair either next month
Okay.
or this Friday. So for the first time, I'm going to go and trim my beard maybe this Friday or this month. Let's.
And I did a bit of research why you must have transitioned from here to there.
See.
And I'll just take a minute because yes, I know the you have something lined up, but at the same time you mentioned something very interesting about what growing up your hair for a certain period of time would do that to you. Is there something psychological or emotional that happens, or is it something else altogether?
So
The
two things
science behind
I noticed
yeah.
when I was growing the
Hmm.
beard. One is I'm feeling calmer. I don't know why I'm feeling calmer, but I'm
Okay.
feeling calmer. That's one. So maybe
Huh.
once I trim it, I'm going to trim it very short. Let's see what happens. The
Yeah.
second thing I've noticed was the ability to deal with criticism, because so many people constantly criticize it. It's chi, it is this, it is that. What do you look like?
Acha.
Including my mother saying I look like a fisherman one day. So matlab, it was all over the place. So as a result, it
Okay.
trains you to, okay, that is your opinion.
Hmm.
This is something that I'm doing for myself. So I think it was a great learning experience for me about
Okay.
putting myself first on these things.
Oh, what a way of looking at life, Ashton. I must say that, the entire approach you have towards things is brilliant, and I am certainly looking forward to two more books. Those are coming up this year. Thank you so much for accepting our invite, and sharing the
Everyone,
perspective
please
with us.
go by, change your habits, change your life. I'm also doing lots of signings around the country. So if you're around in the same place, please let me know. Where are you based out of?
I'm based in Pune. I know you
Pune.
came last month you were in here,
Yes.
and I was traveling that time, so
Great.
I did see this
So next
place
time I come to Pune.
for sure. Thank you so
Awesome.
much.
Thank you, everyone. See you. I'm about to jump on to another podcast with a fantastic international guest who's going to answer one of the questions that actually came up. So she's a positivity coach. So
Okay.
one of the questions that came up was, how do you deal with negative people? See, that is
Hmm.
coming. Does was just asked the question again. Okay, so I'm just answering a question. I'm going to do a podcast with this person. Her
Huh.
episode will come out probably next week or the week after. So
Okay.
do check it out
Okay.
then. All
Yeah.
right.
Thank
See
you
you.
so much.
Bye.
Bye bye. Thank you.